Welcome to Twisted Heartstrings, a dream in New York City. Emma Rodriguez stood in her cramped studio apartment in Brooklyn, surrounded by fabric samples, sketches, and half-finished designs. At 28 years old, she had spent the last decade chasing a dream that seemed to slip further away with each passing year. Her fingers traced the delicate beadwork on a midnight blue evening gown, one of her finest creations. The dress represented months of work, countless sleepless nights, and every ounce of talent she possessed. Outside her window, the Manhattan skyline glittered with promise. Emma had arrived in New York fresh out of design school in Texas, carrying nothing but a portfolio and impossible dreams. She had worked 3 jobs to support herself while building her design collection. She waited tables, walked dogs, and cleaned offices, all while sketching designs on napkins during her breaks. The city had been cruel at first. Design houses rejected her portfolio. Investors dismissed her ideas. But Emma refused to give up. She started small, creating custom pieces for friends, then friends of friends. Slowly, her reputation grew in underground fashion circles. People whispered about the talented unknown designer who could create magic with fabric and thread. The man who changed everything. Emma met Marcus Chin 5 years ago at a charity fashion show where she had volunteered to help backstage. He was 29 then, a young businessman with sharp features, perfectly styled black hair, and ambition burning in his dark eyes. His family owned a chain of luxury department stores, but Marcus wanted more. He wanted to build an empire. Marcus had been mesmerized when he saw Emma adjusting a model's dress minutes before the show. He watched her work with such focus and passion that she didn't notice the room around her. When their eyes finally met, Emma felt something shift inside her chest. Marcus smiled, and Emma's carefully built walls crumbled. Their romance began like a fairy tale. Marcus pursued Emma with determination and charm. He sent flowers to her apartment. He showed up at the diner where she worked, sitting for hours just to be near her. He told her she was brilliant, that her designs would change the fashion world. For the first time in her life, Emma felt truly seen. Marcus integrated himself into every aspect of Emma's life. He attended her small fashion shows. He introduced her to contacts in the industry. He convinced her to show him all her designs, her sketches, her secret notebooks filled with ideas. Emma, deeply in love and trusting completely, shared everything with him, building dreams together. As their relationship deepened, so did their professional collaboration. Marcus proposed a partnership. He would provide the business expertise and connections, while Emma provided the creative vision. Together, they would build a fashion brand that would rival the biggest names in the industry. Emma threw herself into the work. She created collection after collection, each piece more innovative than the last. She worked 18-hour days, fueled by love and ambition. Marcus handled the business side, meeting with investors, securing locations, building relationships with manufacturers. During this time, Emma also grew close to Victoria Ashford, a woman she met at a fashion industry mixer. Victoria was everything Emma wasn't: tall, blonde, sophisticated, from old money. She worked in fashion journalism and seemed genuinely interested in Emma's work. Victoria became Emma's confidant, the sister she never had. They shared secrets, dreams, and fears. Marcus seemed to approve of the friendship. He often invited Victoria to their dinners, their gallery openings, their quiet evenings at home. The 3 of them became inseparable. Emma felt grateful to have both a partner and a best friend who understood her world. The perfect proposal. The engagement party took place on a rooftop in Manhattan on a warm September evening. Marcus had spared no expense. Crystal chandeliers hung from temporary structures. A string quartet played classical music. 200 guests from the fashion and business worlds mingled, drinking champagne and admiring the city lights. Emma wore a dress of her own design, a creation in ivory silk that had taken her 3 months to perfect. She felt like a princess from a storybook. Her mother had flown in from Texas, tears streaming down her face as she hugged her daughter. Emma's father, who had passed away 2 years earlier, would have been so proud. Marcus stood at the center of the rooftop, microphone in hand, looking devastatingly handsome in his tailored suit. He spoke about love, about partnership, about building something beautiful together. Then he got down on one knee and opened a box containing a diamond ring that caught the light and scattered it like stars. Emma said yes through tears of joy. The crowd erupted in applause. Victoria rushed forward to embrace Emma, mascara running down her face as she cried tears of happiness. The evening felt magical, perfect, like everything Emma had ever dreamed was finally coming true. Cracks in the foundation. The first hint of trouble came 2 weeks after the engagement party. Emma had been working late in the studio Marcus had rented for her design work. She needed a file from Marcus's home office and used her key to enter his penthouse apartment while he was supposedly at a business dinner. The apartment was dark except for a light coming from the bedroom. Emma heard voices, low and intimate. Her heart began to pound. She told herself there was a logical explanation. Maybe Marcus had come home early. Maybe he was on the phone. She pushed open the bedroom door and found Marcus in bed with Victoria. Time seemed to stop. Emma couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what her eyes were seeing. Victoria screamed and grabbed the sheets. Marcus jumped up, his face cycling through shock, guilt, and then something Emma didn't expect: cold calculation. Emma ran from the apartment, ignoring Marcus calling her name. She spent that night walking the streets of Manhattan, her mind spinning with questions. How long had this been happening? Did everyone know? Was their entire relationship a lie? The devastating truth. The next morning, Emma returned to her apartment to find Marcus waiting outside her door. He looked tired but composed. Emma expected apologies, explanations, pleas for forgiveness. Instead, Marcus delivered news that shattered what remained of Emma's world. "The engagement is off," Marcus said calmly. "I'm marrying Victoria next month. Her family connections will be crucial for the business expansion." Emma stared at him in disbelief. "You're marrying her? After 5 years together?" Marcus had the decency to look briefly uncomfortable. "Emma, you have to understand. This was always about business. Victoria's family owns media companies, fashion magazines, international connections. Your designs are excellent, but I need more than talent. I need access, influence, power. My designs." Emma's voice came out as a whisper. "What about my designs?" Marcus pulled out legal documents from his briefcase. "The partnership agreement you signed gave me full ownership of all designs created during our collaboration. I'm launching the fashion line next month. It will be called Chin Couture. Victoria will be the face of the brand." Emma felt the floor tilt beneath her feet. "You can't do this. Those are my designs. My work. My life." "Check the contract," Marcus said without emotion. "You'll find everything is legal. I had excellent lawyers draft it. You were so in love, so trusting, you signed without reading it thoroughly." The complete destruction. The following weeks became a nightmare Emma couldn't wake from. Marcus moved quickly to erase Emma from the fashion world they had supposedly built together. He contacted every connection Emma had made, every potential client, every industry contact. He spread rumors that Emma was unstable, difficult to work with, that she had stolen design ideas from other artists. The studio Marcus had rented for Emma was suddenly unavailable. Her lease had been under his name, and he terminated it immediately. Emma found herself back in her tiny apartment, surrounded by fabric and broken dreams. Victoria published an article in a major fashion magazine presenting herself as the creative inspiration behind the upcoming Chin Couture line. The article featured Emma's designs, but credited Victoria as the muse and creative consultant. Emma's name appeared nowhere in the piece. Emma tried to fight back. She contacted lawyers, but they all said the same thing. The contract she had signed was airtight. She had given away all rights to her work. She tried to share her story on social media, but Marcus's team flagged her posts as harassment. Her accounts were suspended. The fashion community, influenced by Marcus's wealth and connections, turned against Emma. Designers she had admired refused to return her calls. Opportunities dried up completely. Emma couldn't even get a job at a fabric store because Marcus's influence reached everywhere. The final humiliation. The launch party for Chin Couture was everything Marcus had promised Emma their brand would be. It took place at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Every major fashion figure attended. Models walked runways wearing Emma's designs, creations she had poured her heart into, pieces that represented years of her life. Emma wasn't invited, but she stood across the street in the rain, watching through the windows. She saw Marcus and Victoria posing for photographers, looking perfect together. She saw her evening gowns, her innovative cuts, her signature beadwork, all presented as Marcus's vision brought to life. The fashion press called it revolutionary. Critics praised Marcus's fresh perspective. Victoria beamed beside him, accepting congratulations as if she had contributed anything beyond betrayal. Emma watched her entire life, her work, her dreams being claimed by the two people she had loved most. That night, standing in the rain as strangers celebrated inside with her stolen designs, Emma made a decision. She wouldn't beg. She wouldn't plead. She wouldn't seek justice through legal systems that favored the wealthy and connected. Instead, she would disappear. She would transform herself. And then, when the time was right, she would return and take back everything that had been stolen from her. A new beginning. Emma sold everything she owned. She contacted her mother and told her she was leaving New York for a while, that she needed time to heal. Her mother, heartbroken for her daughter, sent what money she could spare. Emma bought a one-way ticket to Paris using the last of her savings. As the plane lifted off from JFK Airport, Emma looked down at the city that had broken her. She wasn't running away. She was preparing. In Paris, she would learn not just design, but business. She would understand the systems that had been used to destroy her. She would build connections of her own. She would become someone Marcus Chun would never recognize until it was too late. Emma Rodriguez was dead. The woman who had loved and trusted was gone. In her place, someone new would rise. Someone harder. Someone smarter. Someone who understood that in the fashion world, as in life, the greatest revenge wasn't anger. It was success beyond your enemy's wildest imagination. The plane pierced through clouds into brilliant sunlight. Emma closed her eyes and began planning her transformation. Marcus Chun had taken 5 years of her life, her designs, and her heart. She would take his empire, his reputation, and his future. And she would do it wearing a smile as beautiful and cold as the diamonds he had once offered her. The story was just beginning. Part 2. The Rise. A stranger in Paris. Emma arrived in Paris on a gray October morning with 2 suitcases and a heart full of determination. The city of lights felt cold and unwelcoming at first. She had rented a tiny room in the Marais district, barely larger than a closet, with a single window overlooking a narrow street. The rent consumed most of her remaining money, but the location was perfect, close to the fashion district where dreams were made and broken daily. For the first 2 weeks, Emma did nothing but walk. She explored every corner of Paris's fashion world. She studied the windows of luxury boutiques on Avenue Montaigne. She sat in cafes near design houses, listening to conversations in French she barely understood. She visited fabric markets and sketch galleries, absorbing everything like a sponge desperate for water. At night, Emma worked on transforming herself. She cut her long brown hair into a sleek bob. She studied French using language apps until her eyes burned with exhaustion. She watched videos on business strategy, contract law, and corporate manipulation. She was no longer Emma Rodriguez, the trusting girl from Texas. She was becoming someone new, someone who would never be fooled again. Money ran out faster than Emma expected. By the 3rd week, she was rationing meals to 1 per day. She took a job cleaning offices at night, work that paid cash and asked no questions. During the day, she haunted the fashion district, watching, learning, planning. The chance encounter. Emma's transformation began on a rainy November evening outside Maison Laurent, one of Paris's most prestigious design houses. She had been standing across the street, sketching the window display in her notebook, when an elderly man approached her. "You're studying the draping technique," he said in accented English, startling Emma. "Most people only see the beauty. You see the construction." Emma turned to find a man in his 70s, dressed impeccably in a gray suit. His silver hair was perfectly styled, and his blue eyes sparkled with intelligence and curiosity. He carried an umbrella despite the light rain and had the bearing of someone accustomed to respect. "The silk falls in a way that defies gravity," Emma replied cautiously. "There must be interior structures we can't see from here." The man smiled. "There are indeed. Would you like to see them up close?" Emma's instinct was to refuse. She had learned not to trust strangers, especially men who offered opportunities that seemed too good to be true. But something in the man's eyes, a genuine interest in her observation rather than in her, made her reconsider. "Who are you?" Emma asked directly. "André Laurent." The man replied with a slight bow. And this is my fashion house. Under André's wing. André Laurent was a legend in the fashion world. He had dressed royalty, celebrities, and first ladies for over 40 years. His designs were timeless, elegant, and impossibly expensive. Emma had studied his work in design school, never imagining she would meet him, let alone be invited into his private atelier. That evening, André gave Emma a tour of Maison Laurent. He showed her workrooms where skilled artisans created masterpieces by hand. He explained techniques passed down through generations. He asked Emma about her background, and for the first time since Marcus's betrayal, Emma found herself telling the truth. She told André everything about Marcus, Victoria, the stolen designs, the destroyed career. She expected pity or dismissal, but André simply nodded as if he had heard similar stories before. The fashion world is full of thieves, André said quietly. Some steal with contracts. Others steal with cameras and knockoffs. What matters is not what was taken from you, but what you choose to do next. He offered Emma an apprenticeship. The pay would be minimal, barely enough to survive, but she would learn everything André knew about design, business, and protecting one's work. Emma accepted without hesitation. 3 years of transformation. The apprenticeship was brutal. André demanded perfection in every stitch, every line, every decision. Emma worked 16-hour days, learning not just design but the business of fashion. She studied contracts until she could spot predatory clauses instantly. She learned about intellectual property protection, international copyright law, and corporate structures that could shield creative work from theft. André introduced Emma to his network of designers, manufacturers, and investors. He taught her which people could be trusted and which smiled while sharpening knives behind their backs. He showed her how to build relationships based on mutual benefit rather than blind trust. Emma transformed in those 3 years. She learned French fluently, then Italian and Mandarin. She studied art history, architecture, and economics. She worked in every department of Maison Laurent, understanding each aspect of running a fashion empire. André treated her like the daughter he never had, pushing her beyond what she thought possible. During this time, Emma also created. She designed in secret, filling notebooks with sketches more innovative and daring than anything she had made before. Her pain had refined her talent. Her anger had focused her vision. Each design represented a piece of the revenge she was carefully constructing. Becoming Elle Moreau. In her second year with André, Emma legally changed her identity. She became Elle Moreau, a French citizen with documents expertly forged by contacts André provided. Emma Rodriguez ceased to exist in any official capacity. Elle Moreau had no connection to New York, no history with Marcus Chun, no trail that could be followed back to betrayal. Elle cultivated a mysterious persona. She rarely gave interviews. She attended important fashion events, but always left people wanting to know more. She dated occasionally, but never seriously, keeping everyone at arm's length. She built a reputation as a brilliant but enigmatic designer, someone whose past was as carefully constructed as her garments. André helped Elle establish her own design house, Moreau Atelier, in her 3rd year. He connected her with investors who believed in her vision. He ensured she had ironclad contracts protecting her work. He taught her to think 10 steps ahead, to anticipate betrayal before it could happen. The launch of Moreau Atelier at Paris Fashion Week was spectacular. Elle presented a collection that left the fashion world breathless. Her designs combined classical elegance with revolutionary construction. Each piece told a story of transformation, of strength emerging from suffering, of beauty born from pain. Fashion critics called her a genius. Buyers fought for her pieces. Celebrities begged to wear her designs. Within 6 months, Moreau Atelier became one of the most sought-after labels in the world. Elle Moreau was hailed as the future of fashion. Watching from afar. Throughout her transformation, Elle kept careful watch on Marcus Chun. She subscribed to every fashion publication. She monitored social media. She hired a private investigator to provide detailed reports on Marcus's business and personal life. Chun Couture had been successful initially, riding on the strength of Emma's stolen designs. But as those original pieces were exhausted, cracks began to show. Marcus had tried to hire new designers, but none captured the innovative spirit of Emma's work. His collections became derivative, safe, and boring. The fashion press that had once celebrated Marcus now criticized him for losing his creative edge. Sales declined. Investors grew restless. Marcus worked desperately to regain his momentum, but without Emma's talent, he was exposed as what he truly was, a businessman with good connections but no artistic vision. Victoria, meanwhile, had tired of playing the creative muse. She had leveraged her position to launch a lifestyle brand, perfumes, accessories, a line of overpriced wellness products. Her relationship with Marcus had become strained as his business struggled. The private investigator reported frequent arguments and separate bedrooms. Elle absorbed this information with cold satisfaction. Marcus was vulnerable. His empire was shaking. The time was approaching for her return. But Elle was patient. She had learned that revenge served cold was far more devastating than hot anger. She would wait for the perfect moment to strike. Planning the return. In a private meeting with André at his country estate outside Paris, Elle laid out her plan for revenge. André listened without interruption as Elle detailed every step, every contingency, every calculated move designed to destroy Marcus Chun. "You're certain this is what you want?" André asked when she finished. "Revenge has a cost, ma chérie. Sometimes it consumes the person seeking it." Elle met his eyes steadily. "He took 5 years of my life. He stole my work and destroyed my career. He needs to understand that actions have consequences." "And after?" André pressed. "After you've destroyed him, what then? Will it heal the wounds he caused?" Elle had no answer for that. She knew revenge wouldn't erase the past, wouldn't undo the betrayal, but it would prove that Emma Rodriguez hadn't been weak or foolish. It would show Marcus Chun that the woman he had discarded was far stronger than he had ever imagined. "I need to do this," Elle said finally. "Not just for me, but for every designer who's been exploited, every creative person whose work has been stolen. Someone needs to show that we're not powerless." André sighed but nodded. "Then I will help you. But promise me you won't lose yourself in the pursuit of vengeance. You've become an extraordinary woman, Elle. Don't let him destroy that by making you bitter." Elle promised, though she wasn't certain she could keep that promise. The announcement. Elle announced Moreau Atelier's expansion to New York at a press conference that shook the fashion world. She would open a flagship store in Manhattan, directly competing with Chun Couture in Marcus's home market. The announcement included plans for a major fashion show, collaborations with American designers, and a scholarship program for emerging talent. The fashion press exploded with excitement. Elle Moreau, the mysterious French design genius, was coming to conquer New York. Articles speculated about her background, her inspirations, her plans. No one connected the elegant, sophisticated Elle Moreau with the forgotten Emma Rodriguez. Marcus Chun saw the news and felt his first tremor of fear. Moreau Atelier's reputation was formidable. Her designs were brilliant. Her business model was solid. She represented everything Chun Couture aspired to be but was failing to achieve. If she succeeded in New York, she would overshadow him completely. Marcus instructed his team to find out everything they could about Elle Moreau. They discovered surprisingly little. A French citizen, trained under André Laurent, no scandals, no weaknesses. Her business was privately held with investors who remained anonymous. She had no social media presence beyond professional accounts managed by her team. What Marcus's team didn't find was any connection to Emma Rodriguez. That name had been buried so deep that even the most thorough investigation wouldn't uncover it. Elle had ensured that her past was a ghost that couldn't haunt her until she was ready to reveal it. The first meeting. Elle's arrival in New York was orchestrated like a military campaign. She stayed at the Plaza Hotel in a suite that overlooked Central Park. She hired American staff carefully vetted for loyalty and discretion. She scheduled meetings with investors, real estate developers, and fashion journalists, building anticipation for her store opening. The first direct encounter with Marcus happened at a charity gala for the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the same venue where Chun Couture had launched 3 years earlier. Elle wore a dress of her own design, a creation in midnight blue silk that seemed to shift colors as she moved. Diamond earrings André had loaned her caught the light with every turn of her head. Marcus saw her across the room and froze. He had studied photos of Elle Moreau, but they hadn't prepared him for her presence. She moved through the crowd with confidence and grace, speaking French to some guests, English to others, laughing at jokes with a sophistication that drew people to her like moths to flame. He approached her during cocktail hour. "Ms. Moreau, welcome to New York. I'm Marcus Chun of Chun Couture." Elle turned to face him for the first time in 3 years. She kept her expression politely neutral, showing no recognition, no emotion. "Mr. Chun, of course. I've followed your work. Thank you for the welcome." Marcus extended his hand. Elle shook it briefly, her grip firm and cool. Marcus felt something stir in his chest. Attraction, certainly, but also something else. A vague sense of familiarity he couldn't quite place. "Perhaps we could have dinner," Marcus suggested, his most charming smile in place. "I'd love to discuss the fashion landscape in New York. We're not competitors. There's room for multiple success stories." Elle studied him for a moment, her expression unreadable. Marcus felt himself being assessed and evaluated in a way that made him slightly uncomfortable. This woman saw through his charm to something deeper. One evening over dinner at an exclusive French restaurant, Marcus surprised himself by saying, "You remind me of someone I once knew. A designer, incredibly talented, but she lacked the business sense to succeed." Elle's expression didn't change. "What happened to her?" "She disappeared," Marcus said, a hint of regret in his voice. "Left New York after a failed partnership. I sometimes wonder if things could have been different." Elle sipped her wine. "Do you regret how things ended?" Marcus considered the question. "I made the right business decision, but perhaps I could have been kinder about it." Elle set down her glass and met his eyes. "Kindness and business rarely overlap, Mr. Chun. We all make choices we must live with." Something in her tone made Marcus uncomfortable, but before he could analyze it, Elle smiled and changed the subject. The moment passed, leaving Marcus with a vague unease he couldn't quite explain. The partnership proposal. 6 weeks after arriving in New York, Elle made her move. She invited Marcus to a private showing of her upcoming collection at her temporary atelier in Soho. Marcus arrived expecting a seduction, personal and professional. He found something far more intriguing. Elle's collection was breathtaking. Each piece surpassed anything Chun Couture had produced. The designs were innovative, the construction flawless, the vision cohesive and powerful. Marcus felt genuine awe mixed with jealousy. This was what Chun Couture should have been. After the showing, Elle poured champagne and sat beside Marcus on a velvet sofa. "I have a proposition for you," she said directly. "Your business needs creative revival. My business needs stronger American connections and manufacturing infrastructure. We could partner, merge our companies into something greater than either could be alone." Marcus's heart raced. This was beyond his wildest hopes. "What kind of partnership are you proposing?" "Full merger," Elle replied. "We combine resources, share profits equally, and present a united front to the fashion world. Chun Moreau Couture, a house that dominates both European and American markets." Marcus tried to contain his excitement. "What would you need from me?" Elle laid out terms that seemed almost too generous. Marcus would contribute his manufacturing contacts, his retail relationships, his name recognition. Elle would provide creative direction, her European connections, and cash injection from her investors. They would share decision-making equally. There would need to be legal agreements, Elle continued. "Protecting both parties, ensuring fair treatment, preventing either of us from being exploited." Marcus nodded eagerly. "Of course. When can we begin?" Elle smiled. "Let's start with dinner. Get to know each other better before mixing business and personal matters." As Marcus left that evening, his mind spun with possibilities. Elle Moreau could save his business. She could restore his reputation. And perhaps, just perhaps, she could fill the strange emptiness that had existed inside him since Emma left. What Marcus didn't know was that every word Elle spoke had been carefully calculated. Every document she would ask him to sign had been prepared by the best lawyers money could buy. And every smile she gave him was part of a performance designed to destroy him completely. Elle Moreau was patient. She had waited 3 years for this moment. She could wait a little longer for the perfect time to reveal who she truly was and watch everything Marcus Chun had built collapse around him. The trap was set. Now came the most dangerous part, making Marcus fall so deeply that he would sign away everything without realizing what he had done. Part 3. The Revenge and Redemption. The seduction begins. Winter arrived in New York with unusual ferocity, blanketing the city in snow and ice. But inside the world El Moreau had constructed, everything burned. With calculated heat. Over the next 3 months, she executed the most delicate phase of her plan, making Marcus Chin fall completely in love with her. Their dinners became more frequent, more intimate. Elle shared carefully selected details about her life, creating a persona that mirrored everything Marcus desired. She was ambitious but not threatening, creative but business-minded, independent but willing to consider partnership. She was, in essence, everything Emma Rodriguez had been, refined and perfected into an irresistible package. Marcus found himself thinking about Elle constantly. She was different from Victoria, who had become bitter and demanding as Chin Couture struggled. Elle listened when he spoke. She offered genuine insights into his business problems. She made him feel understood in ways he hadn't felt since the early days with Emma. The thought of Emma surfaced more frequently now. Marcus found himself comparing the two women, Emma's raw talent and innocence versus Elle's polished sophistication and business acumen. He told himself that what he had done to Emma was necessary, a harsh but unavoidable business decision. Yet something about Elle's presence made him question choices he had never questioned before. Elle noticed Marcus's internal conflict and exploited it masterfully. She asked about his past relationships, feigning casual interest. Marcus mentioned Emma briefly, describing her as a talented but naive designer who couldn't handle the pressures of the fashion world. "You sound like you cared for her," Elle observed, watching Marcus over her wine glass. "I did, in my way," Marcus admitted. "But caring isn't enough in this business. You have to make difficult choices." Elle smiled, a cold satisfaction hidden beneath warm sympathy. "Indeed, we all must live with the choices we make." Victoria's unraveling. While Elle worked on Marcus, Victoria's own empire was crumbling. Her lifestyle brand had been exposed for selling overpriced products manufactured in sweatshops. Environmental activists targeted her perfume line for toxic ingredients. Social media turned against her with brutal efficiency. Victoria became increasingly desperate and paranoid. She sensed something changing in Marcus, saw how he looked at El Moreau with admiration and desire. She tried to sabotage the budding relationship by spreading rumors about Elle, but the fashion press dismissed Victoria as a jealous competitor trying to damage a rising star. One evening, Elle's private investigator delivered devastating news. Victoria was having an affair with Marcus's business partner, David Walsh. They had been meeting secretly for months at a hotel in Midtown. The investigator provided photos, time-stamped hotel receipts, and recorded conversations. Elle studied the evidence with satisfaction. Victoria's betrayal would serve as the perfect catalyst for what came next. But timing was everything. Elle needed Marcus completely committed to her before revealing Victoria's infidelity. The revelation would come, but only when it would cause maximum damage. The merger documents. In late February, Elle invited Marcus to her lawyer's office to review the partnership agreement. The meeting room overlooked Central Park, where snow fell gently on frozen pathways. Marcus arrived excited, carrying expensive champagne to celebrate what he believed would be his salvation. Elle's team of lawyers presented documents that appeared standard on the surface. The partnership would combine Chin Couture and Moreau Atelier into a new entity, Moreau Chin International. Profits would be split equally. Decision-making would be shared. Both parties would contribute assets proportional to their current business value.